Hello, everybody. This is Kim Snyder with the API guys. I'm here with Lisa McQueen of Clean Corp, and we're really pleased that you could join us. And I don't know whether to say this morning or this evening because I think it's a
It's this
little of
morning
both.
for us. It's this morning for
Really
us. So
early
yeah,
in the morning for you, right?
that's right. That's right. It's like 7 in the morning for us in Australia. So good morning to all the Australians and good evening to everybody else.
Yes, well, bless you guys for being here. So just quickly, just want to confirm, I see that we've still got people that are jumping on to the call. While we're doing that, can you all just confirm that you can hear Lisa and I well? You've got a little question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. If you want to, yeah, very good. All right, thank you guys. Super. All right. So, Lisa, let's talk a little bit about why you wanted to do this webinar.
All right. Well, when I was at Icon, one of the things that I wanted to share with the audience was that we have this fantastic new automated contracting system. Sadly, time really got away from me up there, and so I was only able to very, very quickly touch on the fact that we do it. And I had a lot of people sort of come and chat with me later and say, I really like to know more about the online contracting because that's something that I use in my business that I see as a really important application. So I thought it might be a great idea if we could spend a little bit of time sharing that information and also sharing the code so that we can make it easier for other Infusionsoft users to use it for their own businesses.
hmm One of the things you said to me when you and I first started talking about this was you talked about how much you knew you were up for the Icon Award, but of course, obviously, the outcome wasn't certain at that point. But you talked about how much you had gotten from the community and wanting to
Mm,
give back to the community, and I mean, you really knew you wanted to do this even before we even went to Phoenix, right?
that's right. That's right. Um, the last couple of years I've attended the Icon event. Each time I have walked away with so much information that other presenters and other attendees have very generously shared, and I wanted to be able to share something with other people in the crowd and something that I felt was going to be of benefit to them, something that was a bit on the newer side. We've had a lot of other things shared in the past, but I think the e-sign and the automated contracting is something that will add value and save a lot of time for a lot of people. And that's why you and I had that conversation, Kim, is because I just felt that I wanted to give back in some way.
hmm So, maybe you can, or I'm going to show everybody the project plan here in just a second, and then we'll jump into how we made all this happen. But just quickly before we do that, maybe you could give everybody the background on your business process and with your contractors and your clients, and exactly, what the issue was that you were trying to solve, and what the requirements were of the project, and then we
Sure.
can show them how we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Here in Australia, we have very strict laws relating to employing people and also having people out on site. And we have, as I'm sure you do right around the world, a host of different government departments, all of which are looking over your shoulder. So it's really important to have a paper trail, to have signatures and what have you. And we realized that a couple of years ago when we started to put e-signing into our business. Now we use it and it's just so quick and easy because we can issue a contract to a customer as soon as they say yes. And for us, that was pivotal because we didn't want people to change their mind or delay on signing contracts. So having the e-sign really made that process much faster for us. And on the other side of the equation was as far as managing our compliance obligations with with government departments, with our employees, with our contractors. We're able to, it's a seamless process now. We can manage all of that. We can get them to sign when we give them a new job to say they agree to the terms and conditions. And we have a lovely paper trail for audit purposes whenever we need it.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So, so the issue, I assume everyone can see this okay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I have not finished this recipe out, but I will have it um, finished here soon for you guys. So the business problem was this, right? And that's Lisa and Clean Corp and everybody. I think I know certainly us at API guys being for hire, we need to send out a contract, and ideally we want it to include merged information coming right out of the contact record. And we don't want to have to touch it, right? That's the whole idea. And we also don't want to pay the thousands of dollars a year the document signing companies charge for API access. One of the things that I had looked at previously, and I looked at for Lisa and Hamish and a number of my other clients, was the different big document signing companies, and to get their API access, they wanted $1,000 a year and up. And you got to, if you're a realtor, sure, that ROI probably makes sense. But for those of us who are, small businesses, and we can't swing that kind of a fee, right? So the other part of the problem was, okay, well, how can we put this together in a cost effective way that's professional and reliable, but doesn't involve using those third party services? So what you're going to see today is a WordPress solution that we came up with for Clean Corp. And um, we could have done this in pure code, but in this case, we chose to use a lot, partly because we were under a little bit of a time crunch before Icon, but we chose to use WordPress and some WordPress plugins, and then write some
Sorry
custom,
about that, Kim.
just some custom stuff to tie it all together. Um, and so that's what we've got. Well, before I do that, I'm going to show you the project plan, and then I'll kind of get into the details here uh, of what all you need to be able to do this on your own. So this is our project plan. And by the way, I assume you guys all know, right, that you can ask questions in the question box. So feel free to, as you think of things, go ahead and type them in, and then as we go along, Lisa and I'll pick them up and answer them. And if we haven't answered them by the time we get done, we'll answer them at the end. So this was our project plan for Lisa, and so you can see, this is, if you've ever been on any of my mastermind calls, you've probably seen this before. What we like to do, we use these swim lanes to try to sort out in our own heads where these various pieces of the process are going to take place. So we have Infusionsoft at the top, messaging being text messages, emails, anything like that. Gravity Forms, which is my go-to WordPress plugin. I love it. I use it all the time in place of Infusionsoft Forms for all but the most basic of forms. We've got some plugins, some WordPress plugins, both some that are already out there in the marketplace, as well as one that we wrote. And then we've got the WordPress database. So just walking you very quickly through this process. So what Lisa asked us for was the ability to kick off these contracts in the campaign builder. And so I've got a demo for you today. We're just going to kick it off manually, but it's pretty obvious, how that would work. You've got the specific contract information stored in the custom fields within Infusionsoft. That's what allows us to customize the contracts if we choose to. Now, in Lisa's case, we're doing, just primarily things like well, and I'll show it to you later. The rate of the job and the address of the building and those sorts of things, right? Whereas some people may have big, huge blocks of text talking about the services they're going to deliver, but we can put all of those into custom fields and then merge those into our contract. So what we do is in our campaign builder, we apply the tag. Of course, that kicks off our tag goal. And in our tag goal, what we're going to do is we're going to send an email. And in Lisa's case, we're going to send that to two different parties. One is her customer, and one is to her subcontractor. Now, in the demo, we're only going to send it to one person, but in Lisa's case, we send it to two. And the key there is that that email, as you will see, has a link in it that has a query string. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with query strings, a query string in Infusionsoft, um, it's a way of passing data from one application to another. It's right up there in the URL, and you can put merge fields in that. And so the Gravity form, when they click on that link, reads all of that data up in that URL. It's everything that comes after the question mark in the URL. I'll show that to you. So the Gravity form looks at all that data that we've passed over in that link, and it uses that to pre-populate the contract, which is step number 6 right here. Um, and then there's actually a signature field that you can get as an add-on for Gravity Forms, so they can sign that if they're on their phone or their iPad. They can use their finger or their mouse. They click the submit button, and that submits their form. So what's going to happen from there is a couple things. So there is a plugin. It is it is a free plugin, I should say, called PDF Extended. And what PDF Extended does is, as you might guess from the name, it actually creates a PDF out of this Gravity form. It takes all of that information, and based on templates that we created, it creates the PDF. It's going to do two things. One, it's going to store it in WordPress. So you'll see we can actually go look at those PDFs in WordPress, in the back end of WordPress, if we chose to. But the key point for us, most of us, is, and this is where it gets back into Infusionsoft land, we trigger an email that sends a copy of that signed PDF to the person who signed it. We also wrote a little plugin that uploads a copy of that signed contract to the contacts file box, so you can always go back to Infusionsoft and look at that. And then, of course, we could also trigger other automation pieces off of this, going to the right if we needed to. But in this case, then we just also send a notification to the originator, that being the company, saying, okay, it's all done. We've got a signed contract back from this person. So that is our project plan. Do we have, before we go on, any questions on that, and or Lisa, any comments on that?
I guess my comment would be to the people listening in today. One of the critical factors for us in this whole process that we hadn't thought about until Kim and I started talking was how important it was going to be to get that signed contract automatically back into the contact record file box. And I was just so thrilled when Kim said, "Oh, would you like us to do that?" Because that was one of the areas in our operation that we found was sometimes falling down. We'd get the signature in, but then it wouldn't be uploaded. So now all of that happens automatically, and it's awesome.
Yeah, which brings up a really great point, Lisa. One of the things it's kind of one of my talking points. I a lot of times with Infusionsoft, the thing that's really sexy is sales and marketing funnels. It's the
Mm.
thing that Infusionsoft stresses. And the thing about that is, I think, yeah, sure, it's a great use of Infusionsoft, but it's really speculative. You can put together the greatest funnel and, to try to get new customers, and you really have no idea whether it's going to be successful or not. one of the
Mm.
things I love is it's not sexy, right? But is going after the pain points in your business processes anywhere that you are doing things manually, that things are falling between the cracks, that something that presents a real meaningful business risk like this is for you. You told me you get audited. They come in, they want to see a piece of paper for every single one of these contracts. If they're not there, there's a potential legal liability there. And it's just not something that a person should have to chase up, right? So if you find any of those pain points, think about using Infusionsoft to solve those pain points for you. That's the easy, quick way to me and sure way with a known ROI as opposed to the more speculative idea of, generating leads and getting conversions and all of that, which is all well and good. I'm not saying that, but sometimes just, the basic fundamental business
Yeah.
processes can be a lot more meaningful.
That's, and I think, Kim, as a business owner, and as a user, and also as a business owner, that that has a lot of meaning to me, because uh, we have our staff doing things, of course, but everybody is fallible. So when you have a system like this, where it's impossible for things to fall through the cracks, it just takes one of those worries off your shoulders.
Yes. Yep. A couple questions have come in, a couple comments too. But two questions, Mike. Yes, definitely this is being recorded. And also, I laughed because the other day I got about 20 minutes through a webinar before I realized I hadn't hit the record button. Today is not one of those days. And then Richard wanted to know if the process handled clients who annotate changes on the contract as part of the signing process. This, as it's written, Richard, it does not. However, uh, we could really get pretty creative with this process if we chose to. One of the things that we at the API guys are thinking about doing for ourselves internally, for example, is adding a piece to the front of this where there's a quotation process, for example, that gives the client multiple options. That's what they say, right? Give them A, B, or C, because if you give them one, then you're forcing them to make a yes no decision. Give them three, and then hopefully they choose between the three. So and I'm giving away my secrets if any of you guys are customers, but um so for example, we might have three different fields where we're merging in all three, allowing them to check a box or a radio button to say we want this one. And as part of that, for example, you could add a field that said, place your changes here. Do you need to make any changes to this contract? Something like that. It's not going to be really, like as if they had drawn a line through it and, initialed it kind of thing. But you could certainly, if that was something that you knew was going to be part of your process, you could absolutely build it in.
Mm.
But then, for the quote process, then they check the box and then it comes back and it takes that piece, drops it in the contract, sends it to them. Maybe it has an approval process in the middle, maybe not. I mean, really, that's the other key with this. And I think that's probably, Lisa, it's really frustrating to me, those icon presentations. I'm sure it was for you, right? I know you kept saying they've cut my time again. I'm down to
That's
4 minutes.
right.
But it'd be so neat to really be able to see more of the automations and processes that
Exactly.
the finalists have in their businesses, right? But
Exactly. And Kim, I think, I've sat in that audience, a number, well, twice now, 2 years I've watched what was the Ultimate Marketer presentations. And one of the things as an audience member is I do want to see the nitty gritty. I want to know how it works. And unfortunately, that's when I'm on the other side of the equation, that's just not possible. But an Infusionsoft user, something that is super important to me is seeing a really elegant campaign that achieves all of the goals, and seeing how it works, and knowing that, wow, I can put that into my business. And I think that for a lot of people, they would have that same thought process, that when you see something that really works, like what you've done for me and for Clean Corp, is a really elegant solution to something that was quite a headache before.
Yeah, and I think, part of that too is to just know, I'm sure that if for someone's business is growing as fast enough to get them up on that stage, that they've
Mm,
been pretty creative with their solutions. And I think that's one of the key points that I am always trying to help people understand is, these things are only limited by your imagination. I mean, people always ask me, well, what can I do with the API? And I say, really, if you can dream it, we can do it. um, I mean, it just is. You can really get pretty creative. So let's get into that nitty gritty then. I'll try not to get too deep, you guys, because what I'm going to do, and again, I just want to say thank you to Lisa and Hamish because they are gifting all of this to you all and anyone else who wants it. So we're going to put together a complete recipe with really detailed step-by-step instructions about how to do this. I will tell you that it is a fairly advanced recipe. Before I go into it, there is some you definitely are going to want to be familiar with HTML and CSS. Not necessarily need to be able to write much code, but the HTML and the CSS, and then just a lot of detail to it. But I am gonna take you through it. So if we go to quickly to our sorry, I got you guys in the back end of my app there. But so these are the things that you've got to have in order to make this thing work. Okay, and so we have WordPress. We're on 3.9 now in WordPress. You got to have 3.8 or higher. You have to have Gravity Forms 1.86 or higher. Again, these are just the latest versions. Now, you do need in fact, the developer license of Gravity Forms. Okay, in order to do this, but again, one of the things that and that is not free. But one of the things I would tell you is that if you are a WordPress user and you don't have Gravity Forms, you are missing out on one of the. It's like the Swiss Army knife of WordPress, and I talk about it all the time. That developer license is $199 a year, and it gives you all kinds of really amazing add-ons that you can do incredible things with. You guys, I have whole masterminds on this. You can make order forms, you can make coupons, you can do polls, quizzes, and the one we want right here is signature. So we are going to use that in order to create the signature blocks on our contract, as you will see. So you'll need that. You're going to need your server has to have these three things running on it: PHP, preferably 5.3, which most everybody's does, MB string, and GD library. And what you have to do there is, if you don't understand what that means, you just got to go to your hosting company and say, hey, you guys, do I have this running on my server? And if they say no, you say, I need to install it. Could you install it for me? And if they say no, then you're really at the wrong hosting company. Because any company, you probably have it, but if you don't, they should do it for you. We talked about the signature add-on. Now, there's a couple of other plugins that we need. Um, One is called the URL params plugin, and this one was written by an Infusionsoft guy, Jeremy Shapiro. It is available in the WordPress depository. It is a free plugin, URL params. And what this does is, if you don't have it already, this is a handy plugin. It allows you to take information that's in a query string um, and drop it into your page. So in the same way, you guys know how in Infusionsoft, how we say append contact information at the end of the URL. Well, Infusionsoft forms and emails and things are set up to automatically read that information and drop it into the next step along the process. Well, this allows you to do the same thing in WordPress. So you can have a page, a thank you page or whatever, and say thank you, Lisa, because it knows from the query string who you are, and you've dropped it right on your WordPress page. So we need that URL params by Jeremy Shapiro. The other thing that we need is we're going to need the Gravity Forms email fields notification admin hook. That's like a really uh, um, esoteric little piece of code that we're going to drop into a file on our server. I'm not going to really go into that, but it's literally like 3 lines of code. We're going to tell you where to drop it and where to put it. You don't have to know what it means. You don't have to modify it. You just have to put it in the right place. I skipped one. I apologize. I skipped this Gravity Forms PDF extended. That's the one that makes the PDF that I told you about earlier. You got to have that as well. So that's here. You can get this from the repository as well, but we're going to give you a link to the right version. Oops. And you're just going to download that and install it as a plugin, just like you're going to do all the rest of them. And then the last thing you're going to need is our PDF to Infusionsoft script, which is the final piece. It kind of holds all this together, and it also takes the completed PDF and uploads it to the file box. So, trying to think about the best way to show you this, I think probably the best way is a demo to begin with. Just okay, okay. Let's keep going. I've got a couple questions, but Lisa, we'll get to those in a minute. Okay. Let's see. Let's do a demo here. So what we're gonna do is, I think the easiest way would be for me to go. I have like 5 bazillion windows open, you guys. Um, all right.
Sounds like my computer, Kim.
Oh, it's a mess. Um, let's see. Let's take those of you who know me know I always use my dogs for contacts. So we'll take Nesta dog who's under my desk as we speak, and we'll use her for a test. Now again, as I mentioned, what we were doing with Lisa is we were kicking this off in a campaign with a tag, but I didn't make us a campaign, so I'm just going to kick this off directly from Nessa's record. Okay, but the either way, we're going to do the same thing. And what we're going to do is either by campaign tag or here in her record, we're going to send Nessa an email. So imagine, right? This is Lisa saying, "Oh, this customer has agreed to this contract. Great, let's get that contract out. Let's either as an opportunity stage move apply a tag that says send contract, for example, would be a logical way to do this, or what have you." The tag gets applied, and then we're going to send this email template that we've made up. Now, I'm going to find that template, and it is going to be a contract demo. Okay, I believe. Perfect. Now, I want to show you guys this link. Okay, so this is our email again. That this is just a demo, so there's really nothing in the email. You would put in it whatever you want. But the key thing is I want to show, I can't get to that link. Give me a second. And I thought for sure it would give me that link. It's already turned it into another thingy bob. I can go over here. Give me a second. Marketing.
While you're doing that, Kim, I might just answer a couple of these questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Debbie has asked the question, has just said she needed to step away. Are there going to be notes on all of this? And the answer is yes. Kim is going to be sharing the recipe and the how-to on how to do all of this. The next one was a question from Dan. What does a PDF extender add-in cost? Am I correct, Kim, in saying that that was free?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So that add-in is free. What kind of secure? Okay, I'm not sure who's asked me that question. What kind of secure info can you send to to recipe without risking issues, example, social security numbers, etc. Um, I guess like for us, I mean, it's all sort of hidden away and it's secure. So we haven't had any problems. Kim, have you got any feedback on that?
Yes, I would not want to use this for any sort of secure information. I you know what they call personally identifiable information. I would definitely not be sending someone's social security and birthday and driver's license number in a query string, much less I you would definitely want to use like SSL and not something as open as this. So this is really more for just your standard run of the mill type contract stuff. I know, Danny, that you do credit and credit repair type stuff where you are more likely to deal with more sensitive information than the rest of us are. Um, I would not want to do that. Now, you could find other ways to do that. You may still, you know, pass that information back and forth in a secure way, but not necessarily as part of the contract process. But definitely don't do that because this is wide open. Anybody who can sniff this URL can get this information. Okay. So I wanted to show you all, this is an example of a simple example of the URL that we're using in that email. And so we created that. If you look here, I've got an automation link here called contract demo that I just edited and I just pulled it out so that you could see it. So a link consists of a regular old URL like you would normally see. Then we talk about the query string. Well, this is the query string. And what it is, it's a question mark, and then each one of these there's a parameter, and then equals, and then the merge field, which that will look familiar to everybody. Okay, so you set this up, you say ID equals, and then you say contact ID, company equals, and then you just keep going with these merge fields. So what's going to happen is in Infusionsoft, when they send this email out, it's going to populate all of these merge fields so that Gravity Forms can turn around and read them and say, ID is 502, company is Clean Corp, first name is Lisa, and use that to populate the contract. Okay, so that's the link that we are using in the email. Again, this is a simple one because just for purposes of our demo, but Lisa's on the other hand is quite a lot more complex. So all right, so I got out of my thing. I wanted to send this email, so I'm going to do this. Quit talking and send the email. Email editor. Find a template. Contract demo. All right. So here's our link. I'm going to send this to Nessadog. Okay. There's our link. Please sign our contract. Send. Now, in just a moment, what's going to happen is I'm going to get an email here. Let me take this off the screen for a second. You guys probably do not want to sit and look at my emails. Okay, here it is. All right. So display. All right, so you can see here, it's coming to Nessa. And here's our Infusionsoft link. So if I click on this link, it is now going to go. In this case, it's on my site. We also did a demo for Lisa for InfusionCon that unfortunately we did not get a chance to show. But and it looks like this where it kicked it off. But in this case, we put it on our site. And so I'm going to show you this behind the scenes, but imagine that this is, we take these titles off and it says demo contract. This is a demo for Nessa Dog. Here's Nessa's, it's kind of light. Here's Nessa's email address of Clean Corp's automated contract process, right? This allows clean court, blah, blah, blah. So this would be like your text of your contract. You can see that we're able to merge information right in as part of the text. Sign this contract, hit submit. You'll receive a signed copy via email. So you also notice that one of the nice things about this is a gravity form you're looking at, by the way. You think, well, that's a gravity form. It doesn't have a bunch of, it doesn't look like a form, but that's one of the cool things about gravity forms. You can do a lot of things with it. Notice as I write, it sort of smooths out my handwriting. I hit submit, and says great. Thank you. We'll be in touch shortly. Whatever. Obviously, we'd make that a little nicer normally. So I just heard my email bing. So what's happened now is um, we've taken that and it's been turned into a PDF. Um, and so if I go here, so now we're in the behind the scenes in my, this is actually my website. And if I go to forms and I go to entries, you can see how many times I tested this today. And you look at view PDF. So one, right in um, WordPress. Here is the copy of the contract signed with my little scribble by Nessa Dog and dated. Now, again, we made this. You can make this say and look however you like with logos and things. I'll show you Lisa's here in a bit. So that it's there. So you can pull it up there. But the more important part, at least for us and for Lisa, is that now if I go into Nessa Dog, who's also just received an email because I heard her. So you can see the contract is here as well in her file box, sitting here as a PDF. It's the exact same file as I just showed you in WordPress. And then as well, if I pull up my email, you will see that she's got an email as well. That's actually to me. That's my copy. And then there's also one in here to somewhere to, gotta find it, to, well, it's in here somewhere, to Nessa, right? Saying with her copy of the contract. So, just get that off the screen. So that's kind of the, that's the process in a nutshell. So, let's see what I'm going to jump into the back end, but I don't want to lose anybody and like have their hair light on fire or anything. So maybe before I do that, you want to take some more questions, Lisa?
Yeah, sure. So let's see, what have we got here? Okay, now we've got a question here from Danny asking, are you able to put IP addresses on the agreements?
Yes, absolutely. So let me show you one of the cool little features here of this. And there's an amazing amount of things that, again, anything you can dream, you can do. But one of the nice things that they give us here is when we're looking at one of these PDFs like this, um, there's a kind of a troubleshooting thing here, Danny. And so I can just say, and data. Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. Shoot. And data equals 1. Is it? There we go. And all of a sudden it's going to go, whoa, it's going to show me like all the stuff that's actually available to pull into this contract. And notice one of them is just what you asked for. Gravity Forms I didn't ask for all this mess. This is just Gravity Forms actually doing it in the background and storing it. Now I could ask for additional things, but one of those things just happens to be their IP address, their date, their time, where they were. I can actually put geo information on here for someone to be able to, sometimes we need to be able to prove, that they were who they said they were. and that they really did sign the contract. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we can do on the back end of that if we need to.
And the next question is from Richard Musty. Hey, good morning, Richard. Does this process support multiple contract templates depending on the client's needs? I couldn't find the plug. Oh, sorry. That's, yeah.
It
So this,
could, Richard. What we're, in this case, we're in Lisa's case, we're sending outside two different contracts simultaneously. Let me just show you that really quickly. Now, which is a little bit different than choosing which one to send. That would that is I will tell you, that's like not built into the plugin right this second. However, it would be fairly easy to do. Let me just find your deal here, Lisa. You guys were, hang on. So you guys were here. This was your demo that we did. So if you look at, here we go. To like always, these were all of our tests for Lisa's. So I'll just grab
you were
one
very,
from.
you were very busy, Kim.
I was very well. Yeah. Okay. Well, so here's an example of just so you guys can see. Here, you don't mind this, do you, Lisa?
No, I don't mind at all. I
I
don't
guess I
mind at
should
all.
have asked that first. I apologize. So yeah, here's an example of one of the test contracts that we did for Lisa's app, and so you can see this is all the merged data coming out of Infusionsoft, and then the terms and conditions and so forth. So we have two different ones, one for the contractor and one for the customer, here going out simultaneously. But you could, Richard. It's just not configured to be able to say if this, send this one or send that one. But you could definitely get it to go that way for sure. Because so what these are, just kind of, which is actually a kind of a nice segue for me, these are actually templates. Okay. So in the back end, what we've got is we've got a couple things. I'll just take you through. Maybe I'll just take you roughly kind of through how you set this up. Not actually setting it up, but just the order, talking about it in the order that you would be setting it up. So the first thing that you're going to do when you get your recipe and your instructions, if you're brave enough to try this for a weekend project, is you're going to set up your gravity forms. You're going to install that, and you're going to configure it. So if we look at a gravity form, okay. No, I don't want to do that. Actually, I always want to edit. So here's my demo contract. Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever worked with gravity forms, but this field right here, this email field, is the key to this whole process working. And so when gravity forms is so easy, you just click on these things and they appear over here. And so these are the fields, and actually all of these right now are hidden fields, as you can see, hidden field 2, 3, 4. They don't appear when I showed you the form and I said, hey, that doesn't look like a gravity form. It's because all these fields are hidden, and that'll be familiar to you from Infusionsoft, of course. But we give it a label and we say an advanced. We say allow field to be populated, dynamically. I'm going to break it. And we give it a parameter name. And by doing that, it's actually looking for this parameter name in that query string that I mentioned. And it's going to populate this field with that from the query string. So each one of these has is allowed to be populated dynamically. There's your contact ID, company, first name, last name. That's how it's picking those things up. Okay. And again, we have instructions and pictures and everything for you guys that you can follow. This is your HTML block. So you see here, just like when you're using Form Builder and Infusionsoft, you've got an HTML snippet or an HTML block. And if I open this HTML block and I look at this, it it looks like nope, not that. Hang on. it looks like this. This is the text from that snippet. And so one of the things you'll see is a couple things. So for those of you who, now this is pretty simple, right? I told you you are going to need to know some HTML. You are going to need to know some CSS. So we actually style that form right here in kind of in line. And if you don't know, you can use some of our defaults. But and then this is the HTML that actually is appearing on that contract. One of the things that we're doing is we're using these little short codes. These are called WordPress short codes, and this is Jeremy Shapiro's plugin that allows us to drop things like first name, last name, email right into the text on the page and also into the contract itself. So this is actually how this HTML document right here that I'm dropping in, that snippet, is how we are creating um, the page that they are looking at when they are signing the document. That's what this is. Okay. Just I've got it separate because it's hard to look at in this little box. But that's what this HTML content is. And then a signature file. Okay. So that is your form. The other thing you've got in here is you've got the PDF extended PDF plugin, which has like two or three super simple settings to it. I said I was actually incorrect. The early versions, you kind of had to call your host and say, hey, do you have that MB string or GD library? But they actually now check that now for you, tell you what version of PHP you're running and so forth. So if you don't have green here, you've got an issue there. So we'll show you how to set up that plugin as well. Um, so um, moving on from that, after you get your gravity form all set up, um, and then your PDF extended plugin set up, the PDF plugin. Now I'm just going to tell you that these templates that create the PDFs themselves, I will tell you they're pretty tough. They aren't for the faint of heart. Because they do. I'm going to do my very best to explain it to you. And if you know HTML and you're confident with HTML, you should be able to work through them fairly easily. But they are definitely not drag and drop. And I'll show you one. And I'm going to show you how to make these in my tutorial. But so this is the code for this is what makes the PDF. Okay. And you really actually don't have to worry about all this. We've already done all this part for you. So, and we're going to tell you what you have to change. But down here again, right? Same thing. This is the same HTML basically as was in that snippet, only this is the version that goes in the PDF. You've got two different versions. And this is how it's pulling the merge data out of the um, gravity forms. So, we'll show you how to do that, and we'll, try to make that as easy for you as possible. But, if you're looking at that and going, well, find someone who knows HTML or CSS, which is a lot of people. Probably you're a fifth grader these days, right? And get them to help you with that part. Um, and then we've got the final piece really is, besides setting up the email link in Infusionsoft, is this little plugin that we wrote here for this, which is here, settings, and it's called PDF to Infusionsoft right here. And this is super easy because basically it just says what's your script and what's your app and where's your ISDK located, what file and which form are we working with, and that is pretty much it. And so you set all those things up, and if you've done it correctly, the whole thing should work. Hopefully. So I don't, I'm going to just kind of stop there in terms of level of detail, because this is not meant to be a code, you know, tutorial. We will put that all into the tutorial, but I will be happy to, let you guys guide how far or how deep we go from here. So we've got a few minutes left, about 7 minutes, I think, right? So maybe we could take some more questions.
Okay, so we've got a question from Christian, just saying he couldn't find the plugin for the email.
Oh, sure. Glad you asked that. So that is actually not a plugin. That is a piece of code, and it is. Hang on one second, and I'll get it for you. I'll show it to you. Again, I'm going to have this all available to you, so you don't have to dig for it. You'll just be able to click on links and get it. But it is here. Hang on. This. So this is Gravity Forms Help, and so it's actually this little snippet of code that you're going to get right here off their page. You say raw, and you just copy and paste this, and all you're going to do, and I'm going to again tell you how to do this, but all you're going to do is there's something in WordPress called your functions.php file, and it lives in your theme directory in WordPress. So it's always, so if you're an FTP, I know this is really hard to see, you guys. It won't let me make this particular part bigger. But this is called your public HTML folder. This is like the lowest level of your website. And if you have WordPress installed, then you'll have some folders called like WP admin, WP content, WP includes. If you go to WP content, themes, these will be your themes. Pick the one that you're using, and inside your theme will be something called a functions.php file. It's just right here. And all you will do is you will, in your text editor, you will open that up. You will scroll all the way to the bottom, and you will, there it is. You will add that snippet of code right at the bottom. And that is literally all you have to do. Hit save and close it, and you're done. So it is not a plugin. It is just a little piece of. Oh, actually, that's gonna not look like that. It's gonna look like that. It's just paste that in there, hit save, and you are good to go. All right. So I will give that
Yeah.
to you.
We've got another question from Jocelyn asking, can we have multiple signature fields?
Absolutely, you sure can. And just
Um,
super quick. Form. So if I was in this form, um, you'd be amazed at what you can do with these forms. I should someday or go look at one of my webinars on gravity forms. So imagine we were here. We've got a signature block. If I went to advanced fields and hit signature block, now I got two signature blocks. I can do conditional where things only show, if there's two names, show two signature fields. If there's only one name, show the one signature field. I can do all kinds of things. But adding these things
Kim,
in is all really, really easy.
Kim, I've got a question. With
Hmm.
with the signing, is it possible to type a signature in rather than you know, uh, write it on a screen or use a mouse?
It is, as I said, we didn't build it that way initially, but what you could do, particularly because you've got this nice kind of conditional feature here. One of the things that we could do, Lisa, is we could take something like a radio button, for example, and
Hmm.
you could drop it in here and style this, of course, but and say, do you prefer to sign with a uh, pen or whatever tablet or type, and they
Right.
say type, and then it shows them either a box or a signature box, a
Right.
text field or a signature box, depending on which one they chose.
Okay.
Or you could show them both and say just pick the one you want. But to me, that's not as it's not as neat and clean, but you could certainly do something there to give them the choice if they don't want to have to drag through this field.
Sure.
Mhm.
And we've got a question from Danny asking, is there a way for us to sign also so we can have the client and the company signature?
Yes, if you look at the one that we did for um, Clean Corp, one of the ones we did for Clean Corp. Nope, that is not it. Uh, oh, again, like way too many windows open. Give me a second, I'll find it. We've actually got that. Hamish, his signature, I believe, right? Lisa is on it
Hmm.
before it ever goes out the door. And it looks like, um, oops, I was in the right place to begin with. Hang on. Yeah, pick one of these. Uh, well, that looks like a single page. That's not it. All right. Well, I'm not going to find it. But anyway, there's the these were our old tests. But absolutely you can just put that in your it's HTML, right? So what you would do in that case is if you want to send it so that he's already signed it, it would just be on there on on the version when they got it as if he'd already signed it, which is the way I send mine out. That way when they sign it, you don't have to touch it again. It goes right in their file box and it's done. If on the other hand you wanted to actually physically sign it or somehow mark it as being signed after they did, then you would build a campaign around that so that it notified you that it had been signed, and then you could sign it from there. So it's definitely doable. I think the first is the more common way to do it.
Okay. Now, Ellen has asked how can she download the instructions, and she's also said this looks fabulous, which it is, Ellen. It's absolutely fabulous. But how do they get the instructions?
Woohoo! So what we're gonna do is we have everybody's email who signed up, and I need to kind of manage expectations. This is because this is really detailed, and I want to do a good job with the instructions. I will tell you that I don't have them done yet, not even kind of close. So it's probably going to be a couple days before I have them ready to send out. But once I do, I will email everybody. And Lisa's, some of you guys came through my sign up form, some came through Lisa's, but between she and I, we will make certain that everybody gets an email and that has the download instructions about where to download the code snippets and the instructions as well.
And we have another question here asking, let's see, does the functions PHP file get overridden when you update your theme?
It does not.
Mm,
Nope. That
okay,
part does not. Now, a lot of
but
things will, your style sheets and other things, but your functions PHP file will not.
okay,
Now,
so
let me,
that's
well, okay, wait a minute. I should be more clear about that. What you should use, Christina, now we're getting into like kind of deep into WordPress. What you should always use is a child theme. If you're using the parent theme, yes, it will. So if you look at my, now on the demo, we were not, because it's just a demo site that we threw up um, for FusionCon. But if you look at my site, which is the API guys as an example, and you just go to WP content and you look at my themes, you'll see that I have two. The theme I use is called Builder Page, but I made a child theme out of that called Builder, DFP for Done For You Fast, and that is where all my stuff is, my functions.php and so forth, and that does not get overwritten every time they update the theme. That's where you want to update that functions.php file. And there are very good and clear instructions in the WordPress codex about how to do that, if you're about how to create a child theme. If you need to do that, if you haven't, I highly recommend it, having been there once in my life where I had a really complicated theme that got overwritten without my knowing it. I learned that lesson the hard way. So I should, yeah, sorry I was not clear about that. Make sure you're using a child theme.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have.
Good. All right. Well, appreciate everybody being here, and Lisa, I appreciate you so much for, you know, being creative and wanting to create something like this and being willing to share it with everybody. I think that's just super cool.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Kim. It's been great to go through the nuts and bolts of it with you today and with everybody else. I hope everyone out there gets some get some some good value out of this, and you can see where you can use it in your own businesses.
Yep. All right. Well, good. Well, Lisa and I will figure it out how to get you guys all this information within a couple days. And if we can help with anything, I suspect you know where to find us both.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Thanks
All
for a
right.
great presentation. Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye, you
Bye.
guys.